In this unit, we're going to learn how to use properties of parallelograms. And you've encountered some of these properties already in middle school, but here's a quick review. If I have a parallelogram ABCD here, I would know that the opposite sides, AB and CD, and BC and AD, these two sides and these two sides are parallel and as well as congruent. And because of that, the opposite angles are also congruent. And in chapter 3, we learned that if I have parallel lines and I have a transversal that cuts through these two lines, the same side interior angles, or also called consecutive angles, are supplementary. They add up to 180 degrees, right? So far, all of that is review. Here's the last piece of information, is probably the newest that you haven't seen it previously. So if I have if I connect the vertices, I have drawn two diagonals, and if wherever this diagonal meets at point M is the midpoint for both diagonals. In other words, it bisects both diagonals. So AM and CM would be congruent, and BM and MD are congruent as well. So that's the last property. Now let's look at how we use these properties to help us find various length and angles of parallelograms. Let's see if I can erase this. So here's a parallelogram ABCD. AB is 15, and we're looking for DC. DC must be congruent to its opposite side. So that's 15. And AD is right here, and that's congruent to its opposite side, so that should be 8. Angle A, we don't have angle A, but we have angle D at 68. Now we know A and D are consecutive angles, so 180 minus 68, I should have 112 degrees. So angle A would be at 112. If angle A is at 112 degrees, angle C, the opposite angle, see the opposite angle would be congruent, and angle B is opposite of angle D, so they must be congruent. So here are your answers, okay? I'll leave number 2 for yourself to solve. It's exactly the same. Number 3, here we have parallelogram RSTU, and RU is 18, RS is 27, so UT must be congruent to RS. These two are congruent, and ST must be congruent with RU, so at 18. VS is right here, because RT and US are diagonals. Their intersection is the midpoint. Therefore, VS must be 7. That would be 3 tick marks. So VS is 7, which is congruent to UV. Now VT, where's V? VT is right here. So what is this here? Since we're given right here, RT, the whole thing is 30, half of 30 is 15. Because again, V is the midpoint, right? So, okay, let's look at number 4. Number 4 is a little bit more challenging, only because I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Oops, sorry about that. So let's look at number 4. Number 4 is a little bit challenging because it has a lot of the information we learned in chapter 3. In particular, with respect to alternate interior angles. So alternate interior angles. Okay, so just remember this, how we're going to use that. So let's take a look here. We have a parallelogram of CDEF. We're given 21 degrees here. Oops, sorry. 71 degrees here, but I'm going to use red, okay, to do this big thing here. DEF is 134 degrees. Then we're asked to find all of these, the rest of the angles. So let's take a look first. DEC, which is really half, nearly close to half, the remainder half of DEF. Since we know FED or DEF is 134, 134 minus 71, I should have 63 degrees. So this part is 63 degrees. That's excellent. So now we know, if we know one angle in the parallelogram, we should easily find the other angles. Now let's look at next one. We're asked to find out CDE, which is this one, right? So again, in the parallelogram, consecutive angles are supplementary. So CDE, whatever we're asked to find, CDE here, plus DEF, which is 134. So 134 plus CDE, I call it X, should equal 180. Therefore, if I solve for X, my CDE is 46 degrees. So I can call this X. Now, the next one is ECD. Let's see, ECD. I'm going to use a different color. I'm asked to find, this would be 3 tick marks. ECD, right there. How do I find this? Now, you can do the calculations and whatnot. There are different ways of finding it. But remember, the easiest thing to do is right here. The easiest thing to do is, because we know that CD and FE are parallel, and therefore CE is a transversal. If I have a transversal there, and look what happens, my DCE, or ECD, that's the sequence they go by, ECD and FEC, these two angles are alternate interior angles. In other words, I can probably erase this green thing and use the blue tick mark. This is 2, so I can do 2 blue tick marks because these two angles are alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are congruent, therefore the answer for this one is 71 degrees. Okay? Now let's look at the last one, DEF. DFE, I'm sorry, DFE. DFE here. So now this time I'm going to use the green tick mark. So this would be, oops, sorry about that. Green tick mark, this is the angle. The green 3 tick marks is what I'm looking for. And again, let's look back here. When we solved for X, the opposite angle is 46 degrees, which means that this total angle would be 46 degrees here. If this is 46 degrees in total, 46 minus this half, which is 21, I should have 25 degrees for DEF. Okay? So again, number 4 is very representative of many parallelograms when you are asked to find various angles. Keep in mind, one of the keys to this is to use the alternate interiors angles when you have parallelograms. So let's look at one more. Let's look at number 5. I have XY. XY is here is 15. WX is 22. I have ZX, this whole thing is 52. And WT is 23. And so let's look at the side length first. I'm asked to find ZW. Obviously, ZW has to be congruent with XY, so that would be 25. ZY has to be congruent with WX, so WX is 22. TX is this half. this half. Because the diagonals bisect each other, that has to be half of 52, which is 26. And WY is, let's see, what WT, oh, I'm sorry, I marked this wrong. I just realized that this is not here. Its WT is here, 23. So if WT is 23, this part has to be congruent to WT. So TY and, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so TY is congruent to WT, but if I add the two together, I should have 46 for the total length of WY. Okay? Sorry, I went through that a little bit too quick. Now, let me erase the information about the side length, and then let's look at angles. So for angles, what's given? I have WZY, which is here. This one is 72 degrees. Look, a little less than 72 degrees. WXT, so this little angle here is 35 degrees. Aha, interesting. I already know opposite angles have to be congruent, so half of that is given. What's the remainder half? I have to solve for that. ZWT, so this part, that's a second tick mark, is 59 degrees. Okay, so let's see. We're asked to find out the angle TZY. TZY. So, like I said, because these two angles, WZT and this angle here, WXY, are congruent. So angle measure for WXY has to be 72 degrees. If that's 72 degrees, let me backtrack a little bit. TZY, it's probably easier if I explain it this way. That's not wrong, by the way, that's correct, but let me explain it this way. Remember, we have alternate interior angles theorem, which states that if the two lines are parallel and I look at the transversal, the alternate interior, which is this part, 3 tick mark, and this part, 3 tick marks, have to be congruent. So if this part is 35, this 3 tick mark has to be 35. Therefore, TZY is 72 minus 35, and I should have 37 degrees. Okay, and then the next one I'm asked to find X, Y, Z. So I'm asked to find the total. Now, in order to find this one, I know that WZ and XY are parallel, and therefore I'm going to use a different colors just so that I won't overuse my tick mark. This green 1 tick mark is supplemental to 72 degrees. So therefore it's 180 minus 72. So I should have 108 degrees. Okay. Next one, XWT. XWT is right here. I'm going to use green 2 tick marks. And, excuse me, if XYZ is 108, XWZ is also 108. So if this whole thing is 108, all I need to do is use 108 minus the given 59 degrees. I should, do I have 59? Looks like I do, right? Is it, yep, 59, no, 49. That should be 49 degrees, sorry. So 49 degrees. There we go. And the last one, angle measure for XYT, XYT, which is here. If I use a red one, which is little red here, the little red here, excuse me, that would be, for that one, I would use this whole big one green tick mark, and that's XYZ, which is 108, minus this part. This part would be congruent with this part because that's the alternate interior angle. And this part is XWY. Do I have XWY here? XWY. I don't have XWY. Do I have XWZ? I have XWT. Oh, I do have it. I'm sorry. XWT. This part is what we just solved, which is 49 degrees. So this part would be 49 degrees as well. So it's 108 minus 49. I should have 59 degrees. Okay? So, and again, another way to look at this is rather than the way I solved it is, let me erase this. Since we know that this is 59 degrees, let me erase some of these references. You can always rewind and get these information back. Okay, now we're given this is 59 degrees. We're given here, right? CWT is right here. And then we're looking at XYT, which is here. See, these two are parallel. Therefore, these two angles are, again, alternate interior angles. Therefore, they are 59 degrees. If you don't see that, you can also establish relationships like I did and use your calculations to find the angle. That's perfectly fine as well. Okay, so do some practices on your own with number 6. This is really important because a lot of this is foundational work for the next unit. Now let's move on to how we use algebra to help solve some of the angles and side length. So here, solve for x. This is fairly straightforward. That LM has to be congruent with that PN. So 9x minus 25 has to be congruent or equal to 5x plus 7. And if you do your algebra, that's 8 actually. Okay? So try number 8 on your own. I should give you the answer. The answer comes out to be 45. Make sure you do your homework though. I'll check it in class. Now if TV under number 9, TV, this whole diagonal is 74. This is 74. WV, I know. Where is W? Oh, I'm sorry. WV is this here. I wasn't very smart to write it right on top of the W. So this whole thing is 74, the diagonal. WV here is 4x plus 1. Solve for x. So we know W is a midpoint, so 2 times 4x plus 1 has to equal to the total length of 74, which is TV. And the answer is x equals 9. Okay? Try to do number 10 on your own. The answer for that would be 10. Same thing here. We're just talking about angles. Opposite angles in a parallelogram are congruent. Therefore, you set it up that both angles are equal each other. Angle measurements equal each other. That will be 2x equals 26. So x is 13. If x is 13, then you have to proceed to find measure of angle B. Angle B would be, you can't really find angle B at the moment, but you can either find angle A or angle C. So let me try angle C. It looks like it's a little easier. So 4 times x, which is 4 times 13 plus 11, that would be 4 times 13 plus 11, that's 63. So if angle C is 53, angle B is complementary to that. So it's 180 minus 63, which would give you 117 degrees. Okay, oops, sorry. Try number 12. Obviously, these two angles are consecutive angles, so they are supplementary. They add up to 180. Your final answer should be, oh, you're looking for angle R. Angle R, your answer would be 56 degrees. Okay, let's look at number 13. Number 13 is a little bit more challenging. But remember, our best friend here is alternate interior angles. So if I'm given that the angle measure for KLH, which is right here, is 134 degrees, right? And I'm also given a function here. But remember, this angle, double blue tick mark, should be congruent with this angle. So in other words, over here, I've also got 4x plus 9. Now, I know this big angle and this angle are complementary, so I can simply set it up as 25 plus 4x plus 9 should equal 180 minus 146, right? So if I do my math right, that's 13, 20, yep, so then I would have 4x equals 12, and then x would equal 3. Okay, so again, remember to use alternate interior angles because they are congruent, and then you can set up the consecutive angles as supplementary angles. Number 14, I have angle ABC, which is this whole thing here, is 115 degrees, ABC. And then I'm asked to find angle ADB, so just this thing here. But I probably should find x first, right? Let's see. ADB happens to be alternate interior angles with CBD. CBD would be 115 minus this 4x minus plus 6. So I can set up that equation right there. This angle, which is given, should be congruent to this angle, which is 115 minus 4x plus 6. Be very careful with your parentheses. If you want to add 11 on both sides, you should have 126, and then take off the parentheses, and now you should have 120. You should have x equals 12. Once you have that, you just need to plug it in. That should come out to be, let's see, 61 degrees. Oops, sorry. That's your final answer. Okay, guys? So this unit is a little long, but it takes a little practice with these very useful properties. And good luck. I will see you in class.